Welcome to the first episode of the Do Your Damn Job podcast. Today I have with me Lieutenant Kurtis Kernan with the Seguin Fire Department. Kurtis Kernan is a second-generation fireman. He started in the fire service in San Antonio, Texas as a volunteer. He has been in the fire service for 13 years and is currently a company officer with the Seguin Fire Department. Lieutenant Kernan is assigned to Engine 2 on the C shift. Welcome to the show, Kurtis.
Thank you for having me, sir. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, man, it's an honor to have you. I think today's going to go really good for us. We have a lot of good subjects to talk about. We have a pretty good story about how we met, and I know we'll hit on that at some point. Yeah. And, man, if you would, let's just get right into it. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, man. Well, if you would, I just gave a little bit of your bio because I want to give you a chance to kind of tell us all about yourself. So, man, if you give us just a short little overview, personally, professionally, just what makes Kurtis Kernan?
Okay. So originally from about an hour south of St. Louis in Missouri. My father and mother were both volunteers when we were there. So I kind of grew up around the fire service. I have pretty strong memories of slamming my finger in a tanker door at a mud event, So I used to go to all the little public events. There used to be a lady that would kind of sit with me in the car if my dad responded POV to some structure fires and stuff like that. So I've got very good memories of the fire service growing up. When I was about 5 or 6, my mom joined the military to pursue her career. She was an LVN, and we moved around a lot of different places. She's now a doctor, and when she retired out of San Antonio. So this is just kind of where we stayed. It always just seems like we moved back to San Antonio, and just kind of San Antonio was just, we would stay here a couple of years, we'd leave a couple of years, come back. So met my wife out of in high school, and we just kind of set our own little roots and just kind of, made San Antonio home. But after high school, I was going to a technical school that's not around anymore for drafting and design. So I did finish my degree in that. So that's kind of a little thing that people don't know. I do have a degree in drafting and design. I do some CAD stuff and stuff like that for my dad's pool business. So we were sitting at breakfast, and like I said, my dad was always been in the fire service. So it was actually me, my dad, and my brother. My wife was like, well, what about being a firefighter? Because I was like, I don't think I'm going to like being at ITT and being behind a desk for the rest of my life. Sure. We had a, couple month old, baby girl. And so I was like, okay, well, there was a volunteer department right down the road. And so me, my dad, and my brother, we all went together and started volunteering. And that just, like, immediately I'm like, I don't even like, this is what I want to do. And so all the guys there, even all the way up to the chief had a really good story about how he got into the fire service, which we could talk about later if you want.
Sure.
But I just slowly started, I was still working for my dad, but being with the family business, he was able to move the schedule around a little bit so I could go to EMT school and fire school and stuff like that, which, like I said, my dad was completely on board with him being in the fire service since he was a teenager. So, I know he was pretty proud of that. So took me a while to get on someplace. In Texas, there's so many fire academies.
Cool. Yeah.
So many fire academies, so many EMT basic academies. There could be a couple of spots and 100-something kids show up to test, and they're all physical studs. And so you're like, well, maybe there's a chance I might get on. But I went, being in San Antonio, I went all the way down to McAllen to test that one time when I first, I was just trying to get a job anywhere. But luckily, one of the captains that I volunteered with, he kind of hooked me up with an ESD south of San Antonio, and kind of got my foot in there. Mm-hmm. As soon as I got done with my TCFP, he got me a part-time spot. and then later helped me get on to a industrial job and as an industrial firefighter. And I did that for about 2 years while I was going to paramedic school. And then as soon as I got done with paramedic school, I applied in Seguin and started with them part-time. Took me a little bit as well to get on with Seguin because I don't interview well.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of just needed that shot.
Sure.
I don't interview well, but if someone was just giving me a shot, I'm not going to let them down. So I started part-time. Wasn't but a few months later, they offered me a full-time position, and here I am.
Man, that is awesome. That is an awesome story. I mean, if I can, from what I gathered from that, right? Mom, LVN to doctor, dad with the pool business, dad, brother, and you volunteering at the same department, industrial job, right? A whole lot of challenges, but it seems like you come from a family of just hard work. Like if you just put in the hard work, you're going to achieve whatever you want to achieve. And it sure seems like you've done that, man. I mean, awesome story.
Yeah. I had some pretty good role models growing up. My dad, he didn't even graduate high school, and now he has a very successful pool business.
Wow.
He's well known in the area. My mom going all the way from the crazy thing is when I tell people my mom's age, they're like, "How is that possible?" I'm pretty sure she was pregnant with me while she was in high school, and I tell her all the time, "You pretty much need to write a book because, having a kid at that age around high school and then going and having the success that you're having now, I mean, that's a good thing all on its own."
Oh yeah, man. I mean, what's some genes to pass on, man? That is awesome. And it's funny too, because we were talking, before we started the actual podcast about you being a Kansas City Chiefs fan. And it's just weird. It's weird because it's down I hunt in Kansas every year. We go on a 3-4 day hunt up in Burlington, Kansas. And it's about an hour and a half from Kansas City. And it's so weird because you go up to Kansas and everybody is a Dallas Cowboys fan. Like you have very few Chiefs fans right there.
Wow.
And, I finally asked one of the old men in a restaurant one day, I was like, what is the deal with all these Dallas Cowboy flags? Right. And he said, because before the Chiefs existed, before Kansas City had a team, that was the only team closest to him was the Cowboys. So there's a lot of older people in this town that grew up Cowboys fans and raised their kids Cowboys fans. And so that's what you have. So it's just kind of cool to see the difference. And, you're way down here in Seguin, Texas and San Antonio, Texas, and you're a Cowboys fan. And there's two, you got the Texans and you're a Chiefs fan and you got the Cowboys and the Texans here in the state. So, which I don't blame you. I wouldn't cheer for them either. Nobody crucified me over that. So, man, what a cool story, man. I really appreciate you, telling that story and getting to know you some more. Because I think that leads right into what we're trying to talk to the point we're trying to talk to about today is, hard work and mentoring and being successful and taking your failures and, using how they impacted you to grow better. So, man, I mean, I guess because we're talking about mentoring, I got to start out with one question for you was, who was your mentor when you were a rookie? And then tell us about them and what made them good and what kind of impact did they have on you and your career?
So I can't really say that I had one mentor.
Okay.
Just because there were so many people that really helped mold me there at the beginning. So the department that I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know anything about the fire department. I just know that, hey, there's a little 2-bay fire station in San Antonio and it's really close to the house and I'm going to check it out. So I didn't know that they ran a crazy amount of fires. I didn't know that area was a little rougher and they would have a lot of gunshots and stabbing. I didn't know that I was going to get all this experience so fast. And so those guys really kind of, and it started all the way to the fire chief. So, when you went in, the fire chief, he would tell you his story about how he, and if you're ever looking for somebody to get on here, that is the guy.
Yeah. What's his name?
Ed Eisenbeck.
Okay.
So he will tell you his whole story about how he was a felon, and his aunt, or I'm sorry, not aunt, cousin, I believe, brought him down because that was about the time that Katrina happened, and they were looking for people to help out with, beds and distributing blankets and stuff like that. And then it spawned his helping. And, basically he was told every day he came into the fire station, you're never going to be a firefighter. You're never going to be a paid firefighter. You're never going to get a certification. You're never going to do this. You're never going to do this. And here he is now, a certified EMT. He works on an ambulance. He's got his fire cert, and he's doing it. And he's now the chief of the department. So kind of like how you like them apples,
Yeah.
But it was such a great story. And then, I can remember my captain at the time. He's now a firefighter, or correction, he's now a driver at a neighboring department. I can remember staying up till 1, 2 in the morning, just doing mass drills and follow the hose stuff. And he wanted to make sure that you were squared away. So just all these people kind of just influenced me to train hard. What I know, I want you to know. That's how we're all better as a team. And so it kind of all started there. And then, of course, doing everything with my dad and my brother, you just kind of had that, since we were all starting over, basically. My dad had all that experience, but we could still ask my dad, hey, what, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? And then it just worked out great.
Wow.
It was a blast.
Yeah, I bet so, man. I mean, what better way, right, to I guess, draw a picture for you, a young man joining the service, something that you watched your father do as a child, but to truly draw the picture of how the fire department can change lives, right? Not only for the citizens we serve, but for us, and how the fire department is ultimately forgiving to the fact that if you're a good person that wants to do good things and you want to serve your community, the fire department will provide that. And man, what a story, dude. I'm definitely gonna have to get with you about Chief Eisenbeck, I'm sorry, and see what we can do, because I'd love to hear more of that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
So
it is a great story.
absolutely,
really
absolutely. And so, I mean, so you hear all of that, and so you've lived it now, right? And so we fast forward 13 years, and you've promoted to lieutenant, and you've accomplished everything that you wanted to so far in your career, and through hard work and trials and tribulations and solid mentoring here. How much of what you learned then from that volunteer fire department do you incorporate today as a lieutenant with your company at Engine 2 on the Sea Ship?
So when I moved over, I don't know, there was a different mindset, if you will. And so when I moved over, I would work some overtime shifts, just because there was a retirement at that station, and the guys knew that I was promoting. It's already been announced. We're just waiting on the dates. So I worked some overtime shifts, and they would hammer me at the back table as we're just back there BSing, like, hey, what's the plan? What are we going to do? What are we going to train on? Are we going to train a lot? Are we just trying to get the feel for me? And I'm like, hey, I may not want to change anything. I was like, I'm just going to come in my first few shifts and just see how you guys interact. But I kind of laid out those expectations. I laid out those expectations, and I kind of, it's kind of one of those, I can't remember who said it, but your reputation is going to be waiting for you at the kitchen table type of situation.
Yep.
I come from, originally, I drove the ladder downtown at our central station. And at that station was a recruit, any of the paramedic recruits that were coming in. So I was known for, I would walk in, hey, what do you want to train on today? Let's do it.
Sure.
Whatever they're going on in the book, I want to make sure that they know how to do it. I want them to go to fire school well prepared, if not over prepared.
Right.
And so a lot of people already knew that I like to train and do stuff like that. So they were kind of already knew that was coming in. And I think is actually funny. On the post that you put the other day, my driver was just doing something on the computer, and he took a snapshot from the office. It's not even 8 o'clock yet, and he's already out there pulling hose. So they know that we're going to do something. Just last shift, we got so much growth here in Seguin. And me and you have talked about it before about on these new neighborhoods and stuff. But we like to do something, even if it's just getting out, looking at the new building construction, the new neighborhoods, pulling a hose, map test. Another thing that we just started doing in Seguin is we've got basics coming in. It's the first time in a long time that we've had firefighter EMT basics.
Wow.
We're normally just a all paramedic department.
Sure.
So we've had the first 3 come in. So it's a little bit of a change. So we're trying to get him up to speed. And so, my guys know that we're going to work on something. It may not be, going crazy, throwing ladders. It may be something tabletop, but at least we're going to do something to grow together. And that's one thing that every time I went to the station, I could guarantee that they're going to be going over something with me to make me better. So that's what I try to bring to my crew. And then, of course, anytime we do anything, I'm going to be the first one to do it or demo it or whatever. I'm going to be out there with them. I don't like being one of the guys that's kind of
sure
in the back, like, hey, we're going to pull this hose and then I'm going to sit back and critique you. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to demo it first. We're going to go over it, and then, we're going to train on it, critique and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great topic that you brought up there, right? Showing the expectation, right? We can talk about the expectations all the time, and we can review them and we can solidify them and we can discuss them. But excuse me, but at the end of the day, we have to be able to show them that we can do the same job. And we have to be able to show them that we're humble enough to perform the skills that we're expecting them to perform. And I think that's something that a lot of company officers miss these days. I think it's something a lot of chiefs miss these days is you need to show your expectations. You need to be involved with the men and women in your fire department, not only to build a closer unit and a closer crew, but in order to build that trust, right? I think a lot of company officers and a lot of chiefs go into this. The guys and girls just need to blindly trust me that I know what I'm doing because I did well on the assessment center. Or I did well on the test, and I'm the boss now. And as there is some of that's important. And in some situations and cases, they do need to just blindly trust that you know what you're doing. But there's nothing like putting on gear and putting on workout uniform or putting on a show for your men and women, of showing them expectations and doing the skills that you expect them to do. So, man, I'm very happy to see you do that.
And I'll tell them all the time, I'm not perfect. I have my flaws. I'm not, there's things that I don't do correct. And one of the big things that I like to do is, because we do run ambulances and we run critical, ALS calls or, excuse me. One of the first things I ask them when we come back in, I'm like, what can I do better? And the reason why I like to do that is, one of the senior, I've got 2 guys that I call my senior guys. Their years of service may change, but they're really my 2 go guys. One, Daniel, he's coming with, 13 years of experience of where he comes from. I think he was a company officer there. I like to bounce ideas off of him. He's also one of my good buddies. So
yeah, and he's just a little side note there. He's also a fellow Cajun like I am. So he's over there from Slidell, Louisiana, and he also looks like what's his name from Chicago Fire?
Oh,
Slamigan guy.
There you go. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But the other guy is he actually used to be one of Clyde Gordon's guys. He worked in his district. He was on a ladder truck, and the tradition and passion for the job that this guy has, I love it when rookies come in and the first thing he does is take them under his wing and he disappears with them. And next thing you know, he's out there showing them the truck and he's showing them this. And I think another thing with that, we're still talking about the, what my guys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just want to add on to that real quick is, so I like for my guys to be open if they have an idea,
Mm-hmm.
to bring it to me. So one of the first things when I came in, my guy from that used to be under Chief Gordon, he said, "Hey, LT, I got this book. Do you mind if I print it out?" I'm like, "Let me take a look at it." So during his rookie phase with us, he made this detailed book with everything from, the pressure to, how you change a chainsaw to where things are located in the trucks. This whole book just dedicated to our engine.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
like, "Have you had this forever?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, I just kind of made it for me." I'm like, "Dude, everybody needs this. Like, this is fantastic. Every
Mm-hmm.
rookie that comes in to our station should have this. It literally lays everything out for them." I was like, "This is amazing."
Wow.
So I like to kind of be open. I like for them to bring ideas to me. I don't shoot them down, even if it's something that I don't agree with. I'll still be open to it, just because it's maybe something that I don't know. Maybe, maybe I'll learn something. So
Wow.
that's just kind of how I run stuff at Station Two.
Yeah. Well, no, that is amazing, man. I mean, it's it's like you're taking all the lessons over these last 13 years and you're incorporating it, but you're empowering your crew to be firefighters and to be mentors. And the fact that you have that guy that comes and grabs that rookie to the side and takes him under his wing, because I know you've sat through the class that I present and I talk about how I failed. And that was
Mhm.
one of the things was at one point in my career when I wasn't who I was supposed to be, it was all about what what can I do to make sure this rookie knows how to clean a toilet, and what kind of ice cream he should bring or she should bring, and what kind of cake they should bring. And we forget at some points in our career how important it is to take them under your wing on day one and show them the air pack and the pumper and how we're going to operate and lay out those expectations, right? And the fact that you already have that and that you are empowering them to do that and you're utilizing their experience, that's going to just set you up, man, for great success and
Yeah.
and future growth, man, as a company officer. Man, kudos to you, brother.
And you know, and at other departments and stuff, I've heard people, all these new guys coming in, they don't even know how to change a chainsaw, or, they don't even have to know how to change a chainsaw blade, or, they don't know anything about this and this. And it's kind of like, yeah, well, you don't know how they grew up, but try showing them first.
Hmm.
So,
I love it.
um,
I'm gonna I'm gonna mark that right now. I think that's it. I think that's going to be the title to this one. Awesome, man. Well, I mean, so so we talk a little bit about that, and it brings us into another subject, which I think you I think you pretty much already answered, but I'd like you to dig a little deeper into it. In your opinion, what are some good qualities of a mentor? Like what makes that guy or girl the go-to person when it comes to grabbing these rookies and putting them under their wing, or saying, "Hey, you got a great book. Let's put this to use, and then I want you to use this book on all the rookies that walk through this door." What Name some qualities and kind of dive into that for me, if you don't mind, coming from from your opinion and you as a company officer.
so one thing I like, just going off of kind of, so I've just to, I've only been a company officer since May. So I'm completely new to all this.
Right.
I'm still learning myself how to do things. But one thing that I really like is, I'll take the one gentleman on my shift, for example. His passion and pride in the tradition of the fire service, and him instilling that into these new people that don't, that's completely new to what we're doing. Um, Pride in our station, just that to me is something that's really big of a mentor. Anybody can get out and teach somebody how to pull a hose or watch a, video and, hey, you pull it like this, you're doing it wrong. But someone that's really passionate about not only the fire service, but your department, that's how you get, to me, that's how you really get people wanting to be with your organization is, if they're passionate about the Seguin Fire Department, it's going to go over to them and they're going to be passionate about seeing, one of the, just the other day. So, if, my guys, when they get on shift, if the hose isn't how they like it, they know that, one big thing for me is, you can look at the way somebody re-racks their hose and know that if they take pride in their job and stuff. So they were out there pulling hose and I wasn't even out there yet.
Yep.
Because it didn't look good and they didn't like the way it looked. So they wanted to re-rack it on the truck. It's just, taking pride in what you do is real big to me, other than, the knowledge and everything as well. But just that pride and tradition is something that I think is really big in a mentor.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Actually, we just talked about it my last tour that I worked, I was on vacation this last one, but so we did apparatus day and I went around and inspected the apparatus and man, they look great, and I'm very happy. And the guys just, they poured that pride into it. And I had to talk at each station with the guys that look, passion supports pride and pride supports performance and performance supports results. Right. And so let's think about this, right? If you take the time to reload hose first thing in the morning to make it look good, then I know you're going to take your time on your patient assessment. I know you're going to take your time when you're in salvage and overhaul, and you're really going to pour into that extra time of protecting the citizens' belongings. I know that if you have that type of passion and pride, that you're going to give that extra mile in training. You're going to go that extra mile for your citizens on the scene, and you're going to go that extra mile for your brothers and sisters in the firehouse. And I think you really nailed it on the head, man. I mean, if you embody those two things, that's really going to support your performance and your results when you're out there on the street doing the job that we all love to do.
Yeah, and it goes, so even on just the basic stuff, you can see how much these guys care for our image and care for the citizens that we cover. I mean, these guys are getting calls, they'll go to a lift assist or, something. And a lot of times, not everything is serious, but, I'm getting calls on these guys just for their compassion while they're in the back from family members. Hey, these guys, can't really get into details, but, somebody called our fire chief the other day, super emotional, because these guys just moved some furniture around for their dad that has trouble getting around his apartment. So they just did a little rearranging, made it a little bit more better. And the family called just in tears because you never know what kind of impact that you're going to have on somebody. And I'm just lucky to work with a bunch of studs, that just love the fire service and love helping people.
That's awesome, man. And dude, if there's one thing that I've taken away so far is the amount of pride and passion that you have and the men and women that work with you, right? The men and women that you work for, that is something that needs to be commended, man. That is something that needs to be recognized. It's you putting in that passion and pride out there and pouring it into the station, into the crew, that is really driving what those guys and girls do and how they perform. So, I mean, it's a great time, man. I'm very happy that you do that.
You just got to kind of, I guess, let the reins go a little bit, and they just do great things.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's what you have to do. You have to let the reins go. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, right? You have to let them be firefighters. You have to let them do the job that they were trained to do, and you have to provide them that path of success.
Yeah.
That is how you're going to become the mentor that you want to be or that they deserve, right? I mean, do we have tough love? Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, it's there. It happens. There's always a time to be the boss. You are always the boss. You're always a lieutenant, right? You're always a captain or a chief. But you do have to let loose the reins a little bit. You do have to let them put their thoughts out there, let them try new things. You have to let them be the firefighter they want to be and guide them down that path for success. So, I mean, again, man, kudos to you. You're killing it. You say you've only been one since May, but it sure don't seem like it, brother. So let's kind of flip it around a little bit, right? We've talked about a lot of
Yep.
good stuff here, but like I'm sure that within your career, just like mine and everywhere else, you've had a few failures that have impacted you, and they've changed you for the better. They've changed you to be a better officer, better firefighter, better husband, wife, husband or father. Um, Talk about if you've had any failures, and which one do you think impacted you the most, and how did it impact you to make you better?
So, I guess there's a few. Um, First, just trying to I knew that I wanted to be a firefighter. And it's just getting my foot in the door. So I'm not a very good test taker. I don't do good with chief interviews. And so we were talking a little bit before this started that, I'd went all the way down to the valley, which is, 4 or 5 hours away from any and all family that we have, just trying to, get a job when I first started. And so, I probably tested for, you know, 8 to 10 departments before, I finally was able to get a chance. But it was one of the individuals from that volunteer department that helped get my foot in the door, at least part-time somewhere. And then I, just started continuing to go to trainings and try to improve that way. But so that was difficult for me at first, just trying to keep motivated to keep trying and trying, because I don't know how it is for everyone else, but there's a lot of fire academies and EMT schools here in Texas. And you could have 3 or 4 academies that graduate from one entity a year.
Right.
And so there may be only 2 or 3 positions open, but like 100 something people show up to
Yeah.
test. And so you may not, you may make the list, you may not. And so that was hard, just trying to keep going. And I think a lot of the guys at my volunteer department and part-time department was like, no, I'll just keep trying. So that really helped me along. And then another one would be being at the industrial department where I used to work at. I let things bother me,
Mm-hmm.
and it affected my attitude while I was there. And there was, although like looking back now, there was a lot of stuff that I learned, just because in the industrial setting, you're doing a lot of fire prevention and fire protection systems and fire prevention, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was, although I learned some stuff, I probably could have learned more if I had a little bit better attitude. But being a young, 20 something year old, fresh out of paramedic school, and the rest of the guys go fight some grass fire at the neighboring department, or structure fire, or wreck, whatever, they get to go do something cool, and I've got to stay here
Right.
because I'm the paramedic.
Mm-hmm.
And it would get me down, and I would get upset. And, if I had a better attitude, I think I would have got more out of it than what I did. And
Mm-hmm.
so that kind of helped change me a little bit. And then coming to Seguin, I kind of got complacent at the station that I was at. Initially, I was a backup driver. I was working, on the medic unit there. And then I had a part-time job at a medic unit in the county where I lived. And so it was a lot of EMS stuff. I had a ton of experience from the departments that I worked from in the past. So I had a really good understanding for the basics. I knew how to drive. I could operate a ladder. I could, I had the TCFP certifications to say that I'm good to go. But I got a little complacent, and I actually, one of the he was a captain at the time, was like, hey, I know you're pretty good at rope stuff. come check out Central.
Right.
And so our Central station has our boat, our rescue. It has a ladder truck. It's got the more special operations stuff. And so I went down there and kind of fell back in love with, getting in and doing the training on some of the basic stuff. And then we started hiring paramedic onlys. Well, they're going through fire school. And so, I would go up and ask them, hey, what are you training on today? And then I would start training with these new guys because, I wanted them to be successful when they went to fire school. So that kind of re-sparked my love for training. And then about that time, a gentleman that used to work for us, Richard Wiggins, was like, hey, you got to go see these guys. They're going to one of the neighboring departments. And it was the guys from FD Tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of was all around the same time. So, hearing Chief Reinwald and, Chief Davis and all this stuff, and then, kind of just kind of hit the reset. And so it kind of gave me a little spark. So
yeah, man.
That's kind of,
and I love Richie Wiggins, man. He's a stud in himself, and he's gone through a lot in his career as well. And
yes,
he's just a phenomenal person. So
yeah,
super glad that you brought him up, because I think more people need to hear from him as well. So,
absolutely. Great story as he has a great story as well.
yeah. Oh yeah. Great
Yeah.
story, man. I I love that. The guys at FD Tactics, I present with them as well. Solid bunch of guys, and it's really cool to kind of, turn this around and see that some of the people that have impacted you are people that impacted me, and we go forward with this, and it's what brought us here today, right?
Yeah.
And I know that you and I and how we met is a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
And it has some good implications as to why social media is a positive thing in some aspects. If you don't mind sharing how we met, man, I'll sit back and listen, or I can tell it, but I'd really like for you to kind of explain the good part of social media and how it all came together, which then eventually led to a great conference last May.
So I was getting ready to take the test for the lieutenant's exam, and I was having trouble finding a particular study guide for one of the books that we had to read for our promotional list. And so I reached out on a few different groups. Hey, does anybody have this book, or recommend any interview / books to help, with the promotional process? Because, like I said, I'm not very good. And so I was just reaching out, seeing if I can find any reading material. And one of the things that you sent back was, hey, I'm no textbook, but I'm willing to jump on a Zoom meeting with you. And I was like, okay. Well, it was actually Richard Wiggins was like, dude, that's BC Johnson. Like you need to take advantage of that. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, yeah. So that's, and that kind of sparked the whole thing. But you actually took the time to jump on a Zoom meeting, even though that you had family stuff going on. And I think you spent, a little over an hour with me, just running through scenarios and stuff like that for me to practice. And that kind of sparked into the conference that we had last year. Did you want me to jump into that as well?
Sure, go ahead, man. That's a great conference. It's all going to tie itself together, folks, when you hear it, and it's a phenomenal tie.
So last year, April 23rd, Seguin lost a brother, Roger William Dean III. He had a long fought battle with complications from COVID. And so we had already been, just because he had missed some work and stuff like that, we had already set up a kind of a benefit training, just, bring some guys in, raise some funds, maybe help out his wife. We didn't realize at the time when we set all this up, the severity of everything that was going on. And so the training was in May. And like I said, he sadly, he passed away on the 23rd. But when we were getting everything together, we had reached out to reached out to yourself, and it's just crazy how you would actually, correct me if I'm wrong, grew up with his wife's family, from my understanding, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, me
Yeah.
and his oldest brother-in-law were really close friends all through school.
Yeah. And so we were able to raise some extra funds uh, for Steffi and everything. That went a long way. Your generosity to, all the stickers and swag and everything that you bought, or that you brought, and you just basically said, hey, I want all this to go to the family. That was truly amazing. So
Yeah.
we thank you for that.
Well, and I really appreciate it, but it's funny how taking that extra time, and it's not, by no means am I trying to brag or anything, but just
No.
a simple like, hey, I don't mind helping you out, right? Because I have test anxiety and I know what it's like to go through an assessment center and not do well at all and not get the promotion that you want. And then I know what it's like to learn from someone how to improve and then go through and actually get promoted. And so just taking a little bit of time is I guess the key focus here, right? Take a little bit of time to extend and say, hey, I don't know you, but I'm willing to help you because you're a brother, your sister on the job. And that led to a much greater and more beautiful thing of, being able to go and be a part of that conference and to help out Roger's family, to help out Stephanie and their beautiful baby girl. And then tie it all back together that it was a family that, I've known for over 20 years. Um, and I knew Stephanie when she was a little girl, kindergarten, and
Wow.
to be able to, man, just tie that all back together to where we are here today, episode 1 of the Do Your Damn Job podcast. I reached out to you, you accepted the invite, and it's almost like we're kind of closing a chapter, right? Like we're closing this one. We're gonna go on to chapter 2 in our careers, and I consider you a brother and a friend, and somebody that I think we're going to be able to bounce ideas off each other for a very long time. And I appreciate taking time to tell that story, because as I understood it, the more and more and more that I learned about Roger was that within that fire department, even up in his other fire department, which I think was in Buda, Texas, correct?
Yes, sir.
He was like the ultimate mentor, especially when it came to paramedicine, and
Yeah.
that he was known for training hard, and he was known for taking those rookies under his wing and teaching them how to be a paramedic. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Um, so he actually has the kind of, this is I don't know if you could see it, but this is actually the Latin phrase that he made over our door. He was assigned to the central station. Basically, it's a Latin phrase that not for one, but for all. And so his thing was really big on, if he could, if he heard somebody, kind of complaining or, why are we doing this? He'd be like, hey man, it's not about you. We're here for, we're here for them.
Wow.
So that was kind of that was his thing is, it's not about you. We're here for them, put them first was his mentality.
Wow, man, that's powerful, man. That's like that needs to be in that excuse me, that needs to be in that rookie book for Seguin too, is who is Roger Dean and what was he known for, and anytime you want to complain, remember this, right? Not for
Yeah.
one but for all. So man,
And
that's awesome.
and that station's actually being it's going through a big remodel right now. And
Really?
so they're actually have boards over his original, because he hand painted it. They've actually got boards up,
Oh,
blocking that off, so it stays absolutely original from when he first did it. So
God,
it's
man.
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Because I mean, Seguin's an old fire department, man, and now
Yes, sir.
Roger and his handwriting and that painting is forever a piece of that fire department. So
Yes, sir.
just phenomenal, man. I'm super proud to know y'all and to have been to y'all's fire department, and just the men and women that y'all have working there are just some really phenomenal folks. And
Oh yeah.
that's the whole goal, right? Is that
Hmm.
the fire service is so many people and it's so big. And I don't think you really understand how big it is until you get out there and you start attending conferences.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, and the man, the amount of passion and pride and hardworking men and brothers and sisters, I'll say, on the job that are out there is phenomenal. And Seguin certainly has that. So, man,
We
you should
appreciate that.
Yeah, man, you should be super proud to be a company officer there and to have a long tenure there and be carrying on the Kernan name within the fire service. I'll tell you what, we're gonna wrap this up here after this final question, and I think because I think it's something important, right? Is everything that we talk about is just mentoring, and like I say in the class when I present is I'm not here to talk about a formal mentoring program. I'm still trying to learn that myself, right? And
Yeah.
still trying to instill that myself in my department. But like in Seguin, do y'all have a formal mentoring program? And if you do, does it work as it's designed, or is it something that you think you need in your department? And kind of tell us a little bit about it.
So we do not have a formal mentoring program. I can't recall the podcast that I just listened to, but I'd overheard Chief Thompson talk about his program. So I've recently printed that out and kind of looking over that. I do think we need something like that. But at my shift or at our department in general, we do not have a formal mentoring program. When they first start, it's a little bit, we have some really passionate FTOs, and just because we're a dual program where we run fire and EMS, a lot of the times it seems like our FTOs actually kind of get pulled into that FTO slash mentoring role.
Sure.
And we have some amazing folks that are FTOs that are passionate about EMS and fire. Even our EMS, our medic units are part of our fire response. So, just because our paramedics are, on the box that day doesn't mean, a few minutes from now, they're not pulling a line and going inside or something.
Right.
So it's really, everyone's pretty well-rounded. And I think, although we don't have a formal program, our FTOs kind of fit that bill quite often. And then we've got, like I was saying earlier, we've got, just some studs throughout the department that really enjoy taking these new, pieces of clay and, molding them into, what we want here in Seguin, and showing them the correct way to have a successful career.
That's awesome. The Seguin way.
Yeah.
That's perfect. But I guess that's what's important when you, in my opinion, after some of the research I've done and after talking with Chief Thompson, like that's what's important in your formal mentoring program is teaching them what we want in our fire department, right? The expectations, the behaviors, the attitudes, the performance that we expect you come into work with every day. And I mean, the fact that you're already doing it and you're really leaning on those FTOs to be that first mentor, like that first breath of air, right? Of welcome to Seguin. Like that's starting that process. And man, it's awesome to see, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be people that listen to this podcast. They're going to have to Google Seguin, Texas and try to figure out where it's at. Right.
It's SEG. There's no Q.
There's no Q. No Q. Man, well, you have anything else you want to add about formal
no,
mentoring?
I was just kind of slipped there for a second, but I don't know where I was going to go with it.
Okay. Well, man, look, I've really enjoyed talking with you today. Man, I cannot thank you enough for coming on, man. The first ever Do Your Damn Job podcast. I know I'm going to have you back on because I hope that I get a lot better and we have a lot less bleeps like we did today. But man,
hopefully I didn't cuss too much or anything.
Oh, no, not at all, man. And, but man, I mean, before we close it out, is there any advice that you have for rookies coming through the door? Is there any advice that you have for a new company officer that you've experienced in the last year? Is there anything that you'd like to say before we close it out?
I appreciate you letting me come on, but I think as any new person coming into an organization, just be the first to do anything. Get out there, learn the trucks. If you don't know something, I've heard, you've probably heard, fake it till you make it type of thing, but that's not going to work with what we do. I don't want to get on a critical call, ask you to pull, such and such line, or, hey, give me the tools, and you're like, huh? If you don't know, let me know. We will teach you. but if you don't tell me what you know and what you don't know, I can't show you. So that's real big that I like to tell people coming in, at least to my station. I'll teach you whatever you want to learn. I just need to know what you need to know. So that's kind of real big. And then I think for just in my short time being a company officer, just like what we were talking about earlier, let these guys, let the reins go a little bit, and let these, a lot of times these guys have some amazing ideas, but they don't know where to go with it, or, they may not feel comfortable opening up. Let them, they've got great ideas. Just let them go. Let them run with it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And man, you hit the nail on the head for about the 10th time today. I got a full sheet of notes, but if you don't know, then tell me so we can teach you.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. Always learning, always teaching, always mentoring. Absolutely love it. That's great. And for all of you out there, I know I've coughed a few times and I apologize for that. I said I just came back from the 8-degree weather in Kansas, so have a little stuff going on. But man, that wraps it up for the first episode of the Do Your Damn Job podcast. And I'd like to thank you, Kurtis, for coming on and joining me today. And before we go, ladies and gents, if you would, please grab whatever drink of choice that you have. And I want you to honor all those who have fallen this year and in the past. And I want you to remember to always learn and always teach. Also, please remember that suicide, firefighter suicide, is a very real thing in the fire service today. There's no reason to go without help. And we have a great organization that is truly close to my heart called Next Rung. Next Rung has helped thousands. There it is. Real talk. I love it. Next Rung has helped thousands of our brothers and sisters, and they continue that mission today, stronger than ever. Please understand that you are not alone. Call or text support to 1-833-698-7864 to get a hold of Next Rung today, because you'll talk to an actual brother or sister that's on the job, retired or former, to get the help you need. Raise your glass. Salante. We'll see you next time, folks, for another episode of the Do Your Damn Job podcast.